And let me warmly introduce you to Ulrike Sapiro. Please join me on stage. From Henkel. John McCalla from KPMG. And Cathy Pieters from Mondelez International. Thank you so much. So we have heard so many amazing news from the different panels. What matters to me today is to make sure that we go deeper and to understand, as you are amazing leaders, what matters to you as individuals also. So maybe, Cathy, can we start with you about why transforming really the value chain is counting really for Mondelez and for yourself?
Yeah, sure, thank you. I'll start with myself. I'm a mom of 3 girls, grown-up girls. And the moment my oldest one, 27 now, was born, I had an urgency, like, oh, I'm putting this little human being on this earth. I need to make sure that I contribute to making sure that it's a good place for them. So that was a little bit of a eye-opening. And then the 2 others came, so it became even more urgent. And in the meantime, guess what? I'm also the VP for Sustainable Ingredients at Mondelez, which is a nice, I think I did what I thought I was going to do, so that's good. Mondelez, just a quick word about what we do. So you probably know our iconic global and local brands that are available.
Maybe you can share a few of the brands. So.
I can, yes. Lu, Oreo, which one's Cadbury, Milka, my favorite, Côte d'Or, best chocolate in the world. I live in Switzerland, which is always a challenge when you're from Belgium. But yeah, all of these products are available in about 150 countries across the world. Actually, in France, I think we are present in 9 out of 10 households with our products, so that's fabulous. 90,000 people across the world are working at Mondelez, and that is nice. So, quickly, our purpose, our mission, is to really go drive the future of snacking. And we want to be doing that by making the right snack for the right moment. Sorry, I thought you were going to ask me something. And making sure it's produced in the right way. That's a little bit like our mission. We want to make sure that we can contribute to the future snacking.
You did shift some part of your strategy where sustainability became core in some ways, right?
Absolutely. Well, it's not new at all. I mean, we've been doing this for quite a while, but it is true that sustainability is one of our 4 strategic pillars of our growth strategy, which is not a small thing. It means that the company really has it front and center. And there's only 4 pillars in our growth strategy, and sustainability is part of that. But I think we've been doing this for a long time. Pioneering even here in France, if you think about Harmony, wheat and cocoa are 2 of our big ingredients. And in 2008, we actually launched the Harmony program here in France, now in 7 countries, and almost sourcing or producing 400,000 tons of Harmony wheat a year. Harmony is all looking at regenerative practices. We just launched last year the new Harmony Ambition 2030, which is even more focusing on regen ag, with a big focus on biodiversity and, of course, climate carbon.
Thank you, Cathy. Maybe to look at also another practices in your company, what does it really take to transform the value chain, and why does it matter to you as a company?
Thank you, Isabelle. Hello, everyone. I mean, first thing perhaps about Henkel is very brief. Do not eat it. Whatever you buy from Henkel, do not eat it. So opposed as to what Cathy just made us, give us. Henkel products are either consumer products in the personal care, so a lot of hair products, or consumer and household products, or...
A few brands, maybe?
A few brands. I mean, you know Persil, perhaps laundry products, you know Schwarzkopf hair, Taft and Sios, so a lot of hair and personal care products on that side. But the other half, so the other half of the business is adhesives technology solutions into a wide variety of other sectors. So anything you can think is glued, in a nutshell, from your shoes to your t-shirts, to your phones, to your cars, planes, etc., might have Henkel adhesives in. So none of that is edible, but everything is really fantastic stuff. But to your question about why does the value chain matter, and to us in particular, and here in particular, it's because we need to drive action where impact is. And very clearly, if you look at what the Greenhouse Gas Protocol gives us as a standard for accounting greenhouse gases and what SBTi gives us as a standard for putting targets to net zero against it, it's very clearly giving us a map of where the impact is. And it is not in our own operations. Of course, it's part of that, right? What we ourselves are using and consuming and in running our products and our production. But really 90+% is in the value chain, and in particular in the upstream value chain. So of course, this action starts with us, how we are reformulating our products, how we make them smaller, how we design packaging, how we are changing the ingredients that go into them. But ultimately, it has the ripple effect in the value chain, particularly in the raw materials that we buy, and that's where the real impact is, and that's why that is such an important part of what we do.
Concentrating your efforts where it matters most. Yeah.
I start, maybe? Maybe I'll continue off, Ulrike, what you mentioned. So I'm John McCalla-Leacy, Global Head of ESG at KPMG. We have just under 300,000 employees around the world. We work with the biggest companies around the world. So I'm responsible for, I have climate teams, nature, biodiversity teams, human rights. I've got some pretty cool teams. I've also got a team of divers that are auditing, kelp in the sea forest. I've got a team of drone pilots in Canada who are actually doing some work around deforestation. But really, we work with the largest companies to provide not only reporting support, assurance support, but most importantly, in driving that transition and driving that transformation. And actually, Ulrike, you said it perfectly in terms of why is it important. It's important to us because it's important to our clients, with many of our clients, exactly as you mentioned, reporting over 90% of the emissions in scope in their supply chain. But also, and I'll add to that, when you look from a materiality, from a risk perspective, much more broader than greenhouse gas emissions, but whether this be in terms of human rights risks, things like child labor, modern day slavery, again, they see that some of those risks are there, so it's really important to focus on this. Really briefly for myself, and we had a discussion beforehand, I have a really strange background, very strange. I spoke over there just yesterday. I'm a former athlete. I studied fashion design, went in specialised in knitwear design in United Colours of Benetton. I retrained in technology about 30 years ago. I've been in KPMG for nearly 24 years. I was the first black board member to serve in KPMG in the board in the UK, and I find myself in this position now where I can actually influence and drive change. Now, why does all of that background matter? It matters because we need those diverse perspectives when we look through our value chain. We need people who are designers, who are engineers, who are auditors, who are project managers, and so on. And I'll maybe just leave you with this in terms of why it matters for me personally. When you see some of the catastrophic events around the world, whether this be in the social events, the murder of George Floyd, whether it be the fact that last year, hottest on record, there's so much that needs to happen. And my wife challenged me on this, said, you need to do more. If not you, then who? And if not now, then when? And that is a challenge to all of us.
Yes, that's a good one. So maybe as we all here are convinced that it is absolutely needed to transform the value chain, I think that what would be helpful for every one of us is to understand what are the obstacles you overcome. How did you make the shift happen to shift from words into action?
Very good question. Words into action. I think very often we start with, I think it's an important beginning to start with the purpose of who you are as a person, of course, and we hear a lot about that. And John, thank you for sharing your story, but also as companies. And of course, purpose of companies is getting, at the moment, quite a bad rap about being, just pretentious and what is it all about. But I think at the end of the day, and I think Lubomila showed it, in order to actually unite your workforce, your long-term vision of where you want to be as a business, a purpose is absolutely important. And it needs to be connected really with your strategy. Yeah? How are you measuring success? How do you think performance is going to look like in your organization? And in Henkel, for example, I mean, we have the benefit of being still a very largely a family company, but we're also publicly listed, so we have the best, of course, of both worlds. But our purpose is to be pioneers at heart for the good of generation. Yeah? So the sustainability, the longevity is already built in, but that's not enough because that would only be words. Putting it into our strategy as a business, say, how are we measuring success, where sustainability is at the center, really named at the center, between innovation and digitalization, is really giving it the place to hold ourselves accountable.
Can you share with us some examples about how you made it happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So one big example is, of course, I just mentioned, it is the buck starts with us, right? How we are formulating, designing our products, our packaging. So innovation in that space is the starting point for sustainable value chains and for driving that impact. And that means compacting products, reducing the size, shifting from powder to liquid, shifting supply chains, really understanding supply chains, which is where I get from innovation to digitalization, because that's, for me, is the biggest enabler for moving from words to action, is data. Is data not in the sense of just having a salad of numbers, but having real information and insights into your value chain, into your supply chain, to drive business decisions.
And what did you decide based on data? What is the decision that made you shift? Can you share with us some example?
Yeah, a number. I mean, the first one was, you sit there and you say, look, our data doesn't feel right. We don't have it fast enough and it's not correct enough. Why don't we just buy a software tool to fix it, to make it faster? And we buy and we implement software tools to make it faster, and what comes out is not actually better data. It actually is just more swirl of funny stuff. And that's where you really start digging and looking at your governance, at your data systems, at your processes. You really go into the inner belly of your organization and have to start fixing that. So it's super challenging, but it's the right way to go to really understand where your carbon footprint, your luggage of your product is coming from, getting external help as well, but it is real commitment to go to that space. And again, there were many opportunities at that point to give up. But going back to, the conversation we're having here, is that really pioneers at heart? Yeah? Is that really pioneering? Was a checkpoint for us in many conversations to say, no, really, we need to go that step further, even if it's painful. So that's where purpose and strategy and action are actually coming alive.
Okay, we'll go back to the action. Maybe, John, you can share what you have seen in the world with your clients about how do you make, and which obstacles did you overcome? And yeah. I would like for you to share one example that you can share, and, so we can learn from.
Yeah, so first of all, words matter. And really what matters are the right words in the right context and with the right individual. And I talk a lot about the importance as change makers, as CSOs, as being bilingual, quadlingual, trilingual. So you've been able to speak to the right people in the right context. And here's a challenge I often issue to people. If you're speaking to a C-suite individual, do so without using the term ESG, sustainability, transformation, or change. Don't use it. When you speak to a CFO, I like to talk about EBITDA improvement, because that's what they understand. And I'll give you an example. I was at an event not so long ago whereby we were able to show that through an internal project, we'll not only be able to show it was 10 by 10, so it was a 10% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, whilst also a 10% improvement in EBITDA, in profit. If you're speaking to the CIO, I talk about assets and how you can extend the life of the assets, or how you can reduce compute power. If you speak to the CRO, you talk about risk, whether this be physical risk or transition risk. So it's really important that we, because as sustainability experts, we talk in our own language, right? We talk about ISSB, CSRD, UDR, and we get lost in that, but we have to translate that. So words are really important. And the last piece I'll reference really quickly is accountabilities. Being really specific with those who can drive change, ideally linked to remuneration, and also with short-term specific goals. So the example was the EBITDA improvement as well.
But the points you're raising, John, is that it has become everyone's business. It's not just the CSO responsibility, it's everyone's accountability. Thank you. And Cathy, maybe?
I'm happy to jump on that because that was exactly the point I wanted to make on the why. I love the why question because it's so important as a company to understand and to all be aligned on why are we doing this. And I think it's important we've really understood that our CEO is obsessed with sustained growth. We're a growth company and we shouldn't be shy about that. It's good. But we want to see sustained growth. And we cannot have that on a weak supply chain or a challenged supply chain. So that's when you need to start understanding what is happening in your supply chain. And so Paul Pullman will be really happy to know that we go deep into our scope 3 and all the way up to the field to understand what's happening.
And did you, based on this, the fact that also sustainability was your fourth pillar of your strategy, did it shift also the decision, the way your decisions were made also?
Yeah, it's a journey. Let me say that. It is a journey, but it's true that having it up there, nobody can hide. It's everyone's business. I think someone said that. But it's genuinely true. And for me, that's one of the, how you get over an obstacle. Because, you know, even if you are a finance person, you need to make sure that you plan for the investment in the right way, that you allocate in the right way. We have more than 15 business units who all have their P&Ls, and we have global sustainability commitments and goals, which is complicated.
How do you manage that?
Well, all of these business units now have a clear person responsible for sustainability with a steerco and clear accountability, to your point, on what they all need to deliver so that we all together reach the global goal. So that's all leading. The fact that it's front and center in our strategy is driving that. So that's an important one. But I wanted to add a few things. You were mentioning the speech, and I would say, yes, simplify the complexity. What we do is complex. And it's okay that the sausage making is complex. But you're right. If I go to a board meeting or an MLT, a leadership team meeting, and use my normal vocabulary, they get bored after 2 minutes and they don't take ownership of the topic because I don't get it. And please don't ask me to talk about it. So simplification, I would say, is one of the big things that is important. And then I talked about the why. Just to give you a little example, we actually took our CEO to the field in our cocoa supply chain, just to make it a little concrete. Because he's our CEO, he flies on a private jet and lives, you know, in a different world. So he needs to understand that what's happening in a day-to-day life of the men and women who grow the cocoa that we use in our supply chain. So he actually spent time talking, you know, spending a whole afternoon in Ghana. Then we went to Côte d'Ivoire, and he came back. It's not going to be easy, Cathy. No, it is not going to be easy, but we also don't have to do it alone. So that's the other point I would like to say. You know, when you want to overcome obstacles, it's quickly daunting and it's very overwhelming sometimes, the challenges. I feel especially in ingredients, because some of the supply chains are really very challenged. And if you look at it as a whole, it's very, you can get a little scared about all of that. So when that happens to me, I always think back to, we don't have to do that alone. We're not alone. We should collaborate, not only with our peers, which we do a lot of, but also, you know, with the governments on the ground, with all the actors who take a piece of the value chain.
Yes, it's
we
part
should
of
be
what
collaborating.
we do today is collaborating, learning from one another, and the fact that you stated also bringing your CEO to the field, looking at the programs, meeting people, the stakeholders around, it is absolutely critical. So maybe one last question to each of you is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hopeful are you in our collective ability to drive this transformation at the speed and the scale that the world needs?
Do I start? Well, the first half of the sentence, I would have said, yes, I'm a 10. At the speed and the scale, I'm sort of a bit more modest about it. But at the end of the day, when again, I'm also mother of children, but I look at other young children, I think we just don't have a choice. We have the responsibility, we have the urgency, we have to keep pushing. But I think more importantly, is it that we know what we're pushing for and how we're doing it? I think for me, the two big challenges that we have to do is we have to keep an eye on making that transformation, a transition, the next 10 years in particular, fairer, socially more equitable, because otherwise it's not going to work. We see it happening around us. And secondly, we must move a little bit away from only focusing on risks and urgency and more into opportunities and optimism. I think this is what this event is most about. It's about this optimism. I think we need to capture, bottle that, and take it outside, because I think we need to show a vision of a positive future. Yeah? Not just it's the risk. That will win us actually over, and I think these are the two ingredients I'll take away certainly to be moving forward.
This is what we were sharing before when we were preparing the session, is how much hope and energy and optimism and good vibes Change Now was about. So it also feels good.
I actually didn't know Ulrike was going to say 10, but I'm going to say 10 also. Not because I'm copying, because I really believe this. And optimism is so incredibly important. It's so incredibly important for us all to embrace and to take hold of hope. And the reason why I say take hold is it's a continuous thing. We have difficult challenges to work through, but we need to continue to hold on to it. They're incredible. You know, when you consider the words of "I had a dream," you know, you guys all know this, right? It is really helping to coalesce change makers around the world around something which is better than where we are, but then also to propel us towards that through engineering, through investments, just through the sheer will of mankind. So that hope is important. And then the last piece I would say is, because when we talked about this before, I talked about the timeline is really important. So when I connect to 2050, my daughter will be 42 in 2050. And when I look at the next generation coming through, they are so well informed, they're so well educated, and they are hungry for change, and they have no patience, zero patience. So I think what we need to do is, as much as we can, to move things forwards as fast as we can, and then to pass the baton forward. So I'm a 10.
And invites the next generation at the table, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, the next generation of young boys and girls, because we need that diversity as well. Thank you for having us. Hope. I'm not sure that I like the word hope, but I would say, am I confident? Yes, I'm 100% confident in the ability of jointly transforming, like the collective. As soon as we try to isolate ourselves and try to cover our backs and do something on our own, I'm a little less confident. As long as we walk together, as we collaborate, as we understand our supply chains, and I'm very confident that we will get to a place where everybody, I'm a little obsessed with that, everybody, all the actors who get a value out of the value chain have a role to play in helping transform it into a positive one. And I'm confident that that is happening. A little bit going back, I was looking earlier, I was watching which one should I choose. So I'm definitely going to take the all together one, or go back to an old African proverb that you probably all know by now. But if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
Thank you so much. Thank you to each of you. And mine will be with actions come hope. Thank you.